Hi, my name is Janet Ayers, and I am not a doctor. I have no formal medical training. I have educated myself as to how to heal myself from my conditions. I have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and I'm basically here because I want to share with you why I'm so passionate about Swiss Bionic Solutions PEMF systems. Excuse me for having notes. I wanted to not leave out any details. So my standing before you today is not a small miracle. I was born with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which means that my joints come out of socket easily. I'm basically like Gumby. I bend all over the place. I have a lot of dislocations and mislocations, and I have internal fragility. I have had, as a result of this, loose and unstable joints, internal fragility causing 7 hernias I've had repaired. I've had my feet reconstructed, my knees cleaned out from inflammation, my shoulders reattached from constantly hanging out of socket, which, by the way, a physical therapist destroyed the surgery, so my shoulder still hangs out of socket, but because of what I've learned, I can bowl 7 games in an hour, even with my shoulder hanging subluxed, not completely out of socket. I spent the bulk of 14 years in a hospital bed in my home. I was disabled for 25 years. I have had 19 surgeries. I told you about some of them. I took up to 29 prescriptions per month, and I was disabled for 25 years. 7 years ago, I came down with complex regional pain syndrome, which is the most painful chronic pain condition known to medical science. It is called a suicide disease. And some of the sensations and symptoms that I had was that I had exploding fire from my hand. It moved to my foot, and I thought my foot was broken. It moved to my left leg and shot heat up my left leg, and then it moved in my right hand, and it felt like my hand was being crushed in a vise, like somebody's just tightening the vise and tightening it. People with CRPS also sleep on the average 0 to 2 hours a night, so when you talk about insomnia, I'm feeling you. And that's where I was. I slept 0 to 2 hours for about 2 years, and that alone is enough to make you want to die. It just makes you crazy, and it's hard to function. My eyes and brain, my eyes shook like this. My brain shook like this, as if there was a motorcycle turned on or a lawnmower inside my head. And I was basically allergic to vibration or noise, and I would just grab my head and scream, and I couldn't be around people. I couldn't be in public very much. I had to just stay home all the time. It was a very lonely existence. So it is called the suicide disease. And how do you prove to the blind man that the sky is blue? How can I make you understand what I'm going through? They're both impossible to try to explain. Words can't express this intense, constant pain. I can see all the doctors one could possibly see and have everyone say there's nothing they can do to help me. Suffer in silence, just don't bring it up. It makes everyone uncomfortable. Just be tough. It can't be that bad. You look just fine. Well, let that be in my eulogy, the very last line. Because it was that bad and now I'm gone. There was no hope, no reason to continue on. That was my suicide poem. And I wrote that because I had no hope. I used to call my pastor every single day and say, I don't know how many more days I can get up and choose to continue to breathe. And he would say to me, I don't know why you're suffering like this, but God is good, and I know that he has a plan for your life. And the Bible says that God uses all things to work together for those who love him and are called according to his purpose. And so I held on to that promise. And eventually, I was led to a wellness center where I was introduced to a different kind of PEMF system. And I thought that was amazing. The first time I walked in, I had to walk in so that I didn't have to be in my wheelchair. I had to walk in holding onto my husband's shoulders with my eyes clenched tightly shut, holding on and just taking very tiny, tiny steps. And after my first session, I walked out like a normal person. And I was able to drive from that moment, but I didn't because I didn't know if it was going to not last, and I'd be in the car driving and all of a sudden crash and die. So, but it did last. I used that system for twice a week for 2.5 months until it burned the micro blood vessels in my fingertips. This system starts with a B. I'll leave it at that. Okay, I actually tried to get in touch with the B salesman for 2.5 months because it was miraculous how I was able to walk and live and not want to die. But God had other plans for me. God didn't let that man call me back. I don't know how that happened, but I'm grateful that that's the way it happened. So I investigated PEMF therapy myself, and I, completely ignorant of all of the science, sought out Swiss Bionic because I could tell just from what little I knew that this was not going to be a system that would hurt me. And so I went to the woman who had the wellness center and said, this is the one I want to try. Where can I try this? And she said, all OsteoStrongs can have that system. I later found out that OsteoStrongs tested that B system against this system, and this system blew it out of the water. So I knew I was onto something, and I purchased my first mat. And when let's see, am I skipping any details? Okay, so my doctor called me after I got my mat to do a over-the-phone appointment and just my yearly checkup. And she expected me to say, my eyes shake like this, my brain shakes like this, and please help me not to die, help me not to die. And instead I said, look, I'm roller skating almost 3 times a week sometimes. I can bowl 7 games in an hour. I go go-kart racing. I can mow my own lawn. I go indoor skydiving for 10 minutes straight, which is really difficult, and you're never supposed to do that if you've ever had a shoulder dislocation. I went up a water slide so many times that I can't even, and you'll see pictures of all this in just a minute. So many times in a day I couldn't even count how many times I went up the water slide. So I've gone axe throwing, all kinds of stuff. And so I was telling my doctor this, and she's like, who are you? Where did you come from? What did you do with my patient? Get in my office and tell my patients how they cannot need me. Because my doctor is a holistic-minded medical doctor, and she actually cares about her patients. She's not just looking to make a buck. So I went to her office. I took my PEMF system. I was there once a week. I would go in for the whole day and give all of her patients free PEMF. And while I was there, I had some really amazing testimonies. I eventually moved to the pharmacy that used to fill my 29 prescriptions a month, and that's where I am now. I have 2 PEMF systems in the pharmacy. I own 5 systems, and I spread some around. Like if somebody at church gets COVID, I'll take it to them and give it to them for 3 days and knock that out, which I had a guy, let me not get ahead of myself. Okay, let's just move to the testimonies. So I had a guy from my church that had COVID and double pneumonia, and he was unable to take a deep breath for a week, and so I took my system out. His mom called me on a Sunday night because he was taking himself to urgent care, and she thought he was going to get on a ventilator and die, and so she called me almost in tears saying, please help my son. So I took my system, and with people with COVID, I take them outside, and I just put the mat on the porch on the massage table. And so he did it for 20 minutes. I don't know about 8 minutes is a waste. I just thought, let's start with 20. And after 20 minutes, and I took video of this, I don't have it with me here today, but it's on my website, but he took the first deep breath he's been able to take in a week, and he was in shock. And so I said, after 20 minutes, how are you doing? How are you feeling? And he said, I said, are you in shock? And he said, yeah, I really am. I don't even know what to say. He just couldn't believe that he was able to take a breath. I had another COVID person. I don't have patients. I'm not a doctor, so they're just people to me. But I had a 4-year-old boy that I heard about who had COVID, and they wanted to ventilate him. And so I called my doctor and said, what should we do? And she said, insist on an oxygen mask, not ventilation. So they did that. The mom said, give him an oxygen mask. And that raised his oxygen from 66 to 96, and then they released him from the hospital. And when they did, I took my mat to him and put him on my mat immediately. As soon as he got on my mat, he quit coughing. 30 minutes later, he asked for food. Okay, so this is a picture of my animals, okay? So the black dog, oh look, I can point. So this was my service dog, but I no longer need a service dog. And so I had to get him his own dog. And they're each 120 pounds. And this is my cat that thinks that he's a dog. He comes to a whistle. So all of them are laying on the mat doing the PEMF. And as you can tell, they're tortured by each other and by the PEMF. And so one day, my service dog after he came in from plan, he had a big knot sticking out of his neck, and you can start and stop. Okay, so stop. So this is the knot sticking out of his neck, okay? And so I took him to the vet, because that's what I used to do. And the vet said it's a blocked saliva duct. It has to be surgically removed, and it has to be a board-certified surgeon, so it's going to be at least $1,000. And it has to be a board-certified surgeon because there's so many nerves in the neck that if they nick the wrong nerve, he won't be able to close his mouth to chew. Seems kind of important. So I said, and it would be 6 to 8 weeks before we could even get him to the vet or to the surgeon for a consultation. Well, it was like this in one day. So what's it going to, and it's going to keep filling up with saliva. So what's it going to be? I'm going to have a 120-pound knot hanging off my 120-pound dog at the end of 6 to 8 weeks? Okay, Wolfgang, go ahead. So this is what happened. 10 days in a row, 10 minutes a day. One more picture. Completely gone. Completely gone. So my vet was not interested. And what made me not need that surgery, which made me not interested in that vet. So next picture. So this is same dog. I took him out to go pee one time, and I noticed that he urinated blood. Okay, so I called the vet. This is before I gave up on vets. Well, on that vet. So I called the vet, and they couldn't even answer the phone. So I texted them and said, he's urinating blood. They said, send him to the emergency vet right now. That's going to cost some money. So my husband had my car for the next hour and a half. So once again, I don't know about times. I just put him on the mat for a solid hour and a half. And then I took him outside to pee again, and I noticed that he urinated yellow. And that red circle is his yellow urine, okay? So then I quit playing with the vet, and actually I quit calling the vet, and I called Terry, my upline, and asked her what I should do, and she put me in touch with a vet that actually uses this system in his practice, a vet that actually intends for his patients to heal. And he said if he went potty outside the first time, and if he doesn't appear to be sickly, don't take him to the vet at all. If you brought him to me, I'd put him on the mat. So that's what I did. He said he needed to do 5 or 6 hours a day of the mat. So I put him on the mat for 2 3-hour naps, 3 2-hour naps a day, and he's fine. My service dog urinated blood, and I didn't take him to the vet. So call me crazy if you want. We call ourselves managed and healthy, and it's just a joy to be able to share this with other people. If you press it again, you can just let it run. Okay, wait, stop it. I'm sorry. So this is very important. So while I was at my doctor's office doing the PEMF with her patients once a week, 2 women came in with chest pains. One of them got an EKG. This isn't a very good picture. It seems even worse with my hair in the way, but the EKG shows that she had an irregular heartbeat with a bradyarrhythmia. Both of these women with chest pains did 10 minutes on the mat. After 5 minutes, both of their chest pains were gone. After 10 minutes, one of them got a second EKG, showed a regular heartbeat. So for these women with heart problems, they got a cardiology appointment, but they didn't have to go to the emergency room to get worked over because we actually resolved the issue, which was the pain. So they still went to a cardiologist, though, okay? Okay, and then this, so the doctors, one of the surgeries I had was that they scraped the inflammation from my knees, because that's how doctors buy a yacht and get rid of inflammation at the same time. But it was very painful, and so I just lay on my mat to get rid of my inflammation, and because of that, now I'm able to do things like take my grandchildren to an arcade, you can go ahead and start it, where I actually did a video game where you jump rope, or where you jump. No, go ahead and just let it play. And I actually beat this machine, okay? I jumped until it was over, and it gave me 1,000 tickets. Okay? So, there you go. This is me roller skating, which I can do 3 times a week if I can fit it in my schedule. Go-kart racing, I won, by the way. Water slides, indoor skydiving, horseback riding. Okay, stop that. So this is the pharmacist that I work with, And she is an amazing woman to have this in her pharmacy, and she has a little something to tell you. Uh-oh.
In my pharmacy, we offer PEMF therapy by Swiss Bionic Solutions. We offer this because of the major transformation I have seen in my previous customer and now business partner, Janet. Janet was my customer for 20 years. I've seen her suffer immensely and go from a hospital bed, wheelchair, and walker to roller skating, indoor skydiving, and more. I want this transformation for all of my clients. We currently have 2 Prime systems here in the pharmacy and have seen many amazing results. It started when my daughter Katie injured herself playing tennis. It was the end of the school year and she had a dance recital a week later. The doctor said it was a stress fracture and put her in a boot. I looked up PEMF and stress fracture and saw that it would help. I called Janet and she brought the Prime system to the pharmacy. After the first session, Katie went from not being able to move her toes at all and having pain when moving her foot to no pain moving her foot, and she was able to move her toes, though with some discomfort. Without my knowledge, she walked a mile the next day with her class wearing the boot. Janet gave us a system to take home that week, and Katie used it 3 times a day. The following week, Katie wrapped up her foot and danced with no pain. We were shocked. Since then, we have purchased 2 Prime hybrid systems, one for our home and another for my mother-in-law. We now have many testimonies from our family and believe highly in the Prime system and the healing it can bring. Janet brought 2 of her systems into the pharmacy, and since then, we have seen so many amazing and almost miraculous responses. Our sister pharmacy has purchased a Prime system for their customers as well. I wanted to join you all there today, but someone's got to keep the healing going on in St. Louis. Have fun and bring on the healing.
Okay, and this is, just let it play out. I'm sorry, I'm not done. This is the setup that we have in the pharmacy, and at the end of it is a poster that we have in the pharmacy of the new me and all the things that I do. So I've taken out a big part of her pharmacy there. So I have one other story I have to tell you, and that's the most recent sale that I made. So we have people that come from out of town to try my system, and I had a couple recently come from Michigan, and the wife could hardly walk. She used a walker. I don't know why she wasn't in a walker or a wheelchair, but she just had a triple cane, and she would put all of her weight on it and use it like a crutch to the point where her hands were being injured. Her husband had a stroke a couple of years ago, and that's why they were wanting to try the system to see if it would help him. So they came and she used it first. It took a step stool and 2 people to get her up onto the massage table. And after her first session, she was able to get off of the massage table by herself and walked to her husband with much less effort, and he burst into tears and proclaimed right there, "We're sold." Then he got on the system and immediately felt his affected side was some better. He wasn't having as much saliva come out of the corner of his mouth and other things. But what was most remarkable to me is that the next day I gave him an Omnium 1 to take back to the hotel for 3 days. They were going to stay and use it. And after the second day, he was in the hotel speaking to some women in the hotel who were speaking Spanish, and he was telling them about how he used to be able to speak fluent Spanish, but he could no longer speak Spanish since he had had his stroke. But he was telling them this fluently in Spanish. I credit that to the brainwave entrainment, binaural beats, as well as the PEMF therapy. This is the most powerful thing I've ever seen or experienced. The fact that I'm here talking to you is miraculous. It's an amazing system. And when I met this man today, I walked up to him and said, "Thank you, sir. You saved my life." And I meant it.